Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. The Tap That Changed Everything. The house was quiet, too quiet for a Saturday night. Jay sat on the couch, scrolling through TikTok, half listening to his mom's muffled laughter in the kitchen. She was on a call again, whispering like she always did when Dad was deployed. Something about her tone didn't sit right. Not anymore. He needed to check the weather for his morning run, but his phone was dead. Spotting his mom's old iPad on the coffee table, he tapped it on. Still logged in. Same Apple ID. Same synced messages. It loaded with a soft ding. Then another. And another. His thumb froze mid-scroll. The messages weren't from Dad. They were from someone named Kyle. Kyle, miss you already, babe. Last night was unreal, Melissa. I still smell you on me. Wish I could have stayed longer. He's clueless. Kyle, when Ethan's back, we'll play nice. Then we make our move. Melissa, soon, baby. Just a little longer. Jace's throat tightened. His heart pounded so hard it blurred the words on screen. He swiped through months of messages, hotel bookings, gift receipts, photos. The betrayal was casual, even cruel. His mother wasn't just cheating. She was planning a future without his father. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He opened the Photos app, screenshotted every text, every image, every receipt. His hand trembled as he typed. To Dad, you need to see this. He hit send. From the kitchen, Melissa called out with a laugh. Hey, sweetie, want pizza? Jace stared at the screen. Sure, he said, voice even. Extra pepperoni. But inside, something was breaking, something he would never get back. And somewhere in the Middle East, a soldier's phone buzzed with the truth that would destroy everything. What would a man trained for war do when the enemy turned out to be his wife? Wait, can I share something personal with you? You've made it this far into the video, which tells me something powerful. You're actually enjoying this story. But here's what's crazy. Many of you watch, feel every twist, every emotion, but forget to hit subscribe. I've set a dream goal, 10,000 subscribers. It's bold. It's big. And you, yes, you watching right now, can help make it happen. If you don't subscribe now, you might miss the next plot twist, the next betrayal, the next karma-filled revenge. So here it is. This is the moment. Tap subscribe. Turn on the bell. Be part of the journey. And when we hit 5,000 subscribers, I've got something special waiting just for you. Now, let's dive back into the story. Ethan sat on his cot under a ripped canopy, desert winds hissing across the base. It was near midnight. His unit was asleep, the only sound being the distant thump of machinery and his own breath. His phone buzzed. Jace. He smiled. That kid had been his anchor, his reason. But the message didn't start with, hey, or miss you. It was a single line, with 6 attachments. You need to see this. Ethan opened the first screenshot, then the second. By the fourth, his jaw clenched. His thumb hovered above the final image, Melissa in a hotel mirror, wearing nothing but someone else's hands. He didn't flinch. He didn't shout. He simply set the phone down on his thigh and stared at the cracked cement beneath his boots. Staff Sergeant Rivera passed by. You good, Sarge? Ethan looked up slowly. Yeah, he said. Just thinking. But his mind was a locked vault of chaos, rage sealed beneath calculation. He stood and walked to the comms tent. A satellite call was queued for tomorrow, but he needed it now. Emergency leave, he told the CO. Family crisis. You sure? Ethan nodded. She just declared war. I need to return fire. His commander looked at him long, then approved it. Back in his bunk, Ethan didn't sleep. He read every message twice. He memorized Kyle's name. He studied the dates, the lies, the smirking betrayal. But he didn't break. He planned. Ethan landed in Virginia 3 days later, stepping off the military shuttle in civilian clothes, duffel bag slung over one shoulder. The sun was setting, casting a blood-orange sky over the suburbs that used to feel like home. He didn't call, didn't text. He wasn't ready to be seen. Instead, he parked a block away from his own house and waited. Engine off, seat reclined. At 7:03 p.m., Melissa's car pulled into the driveway. A second later, another car pulled up. Kyle. Ethan leaned forward, dead calm. Kyle stepped out, tall, too confident, keys spinning on his finger. Melissa opened the front door in a robe. She kissed him before he crossed the threshold. Ethan's jaw didn't move. His hand didn't twitch. But his eyes? Ice. He snapped a photo. Then another. Inside, Kyle poured wine. Melissa danced barefoot to music Ethan had once introduced her to. In that moment, the mission was clear. This wouldn't end in screaming. It would end in silence and ashes. He called Jace from the car. I'm home. You coming in? Not yet, Ethan said. I need you to hold it together. Can you do that? Jace's voice was steady. I've already started. Ethan smirked, bitter and proud. That's my boy. And in the stillness of that quiet block, the war began, not with bullets, but with a father and son, ready to make betrayal pay. Melissa hummed as she stirred pasta sauce in the kitchen, acting like the perfect suburban wife. The house smelled like garlic and guilt. Ethan sat at the dinner table, fresh off his early return excuse. She gasped and hugged him at the door like nothing was broken. You didn't tell us you were coming back, she said, eyes sparkling. Didn't want to ruin the surprise. Ethan replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Across the table, Jace stabbed his pasta quietly. He hadn't said a word since Ethan walked in. Melissa poured red wine. We should celebrate. You being back, it's amazing. Yeah, Ethan said. Amazing timing. She didn't catch it. The evening went on like a bad play. Melissa playing devoted, Ethan playing dumb, and Jace acting like he hadn't seen his mom kissing a man who wasn't his dad just 2 nights ago. After dinner, Ethan helped her with dishes. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A message from Lily Cherry blossomed. But Ethan had already done his homework. Lily was Kyle's burner name in her contacts. He picked up the phone casually. Melissa turned fast, snatching it from the counter with forced laughter. Sorry, work drama. Ethan raised an eyebrow. I thought Lily was your yoga friend? She is. It's complicated. I bet, he said softly. She froze for half a second. But he smiled again, drying a plate like nothing was wrong. That night, Ethan sat on the porch with Jace. The night air was cool, still. She's acting like it never happened, Jace muttered. That's what liars do, Ethan said. They get too comfortable. That's when they slip. And we catch them? Ethan looked at his son. No, we bury them. The next day, Jace accidentally spilled water on Melissa's gym bag. When she rushed to clean it up, she missed the moment he slipped a hand into the side pocket and found a second phone. Black. Unlocked. He texted one photo from it to himself and slipped it back without a trace. Later, he showed it to Ethan in the garage, where the tools and silence offered cover. The photo? Melissa, in lingerie, sitting on Kyle's lap in a hotel room. The timestamp? 4 days ago. She told me she was in D.C. for a friend's bridal shower, Jace said. Ethan stared at the image, emotionless. She was busy all right. I want to ruin her, Jace whispered. His voice was calm, but deadly. You will, Ethan said. But not yet. They mapped out everything. Dates, patterns, hotel bookings, lies. Ethan created a spreadsheet. Jace created a backup folder on an encrypted drive. They weren't just reacting now. They were preparing for war. Meanwhile, Melissa laughed on calls in the living room, texting Kyle under the name Lily, planning weekend yoga retreats. Her lies stacked higher by the hour, and she didn't see a single crack forming. That night, she kissed Ethan goodnight and slipped into bed. He lay next to her, still as stone, pretending to sleep. Her phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. Kyle, I miss your mouth. She giggled. Ethan stared at the ceiling with cold eyes and a resting heart rate of 59. War wasn't loud. It was silent. Saturday morning. Melissa tied her hair in a bun, grabbed her yoga mat, and kissed Ethan on the cheek. Love you. Be back by 2. Enjoy, Ethan said, handing her a smoothie. She smiled and walked out the door. Jace, already dressed, slipped out the back with his hoodie up. He followed her car at a distance in the second vehicle Ethan had bought years ago but rarely used. Its tracker was already active. Melissa didn't go to yoga. She drove straight past the studio, out onto the interstate, and pulled into a cheap motel off Route 19. Jace parked 3 lots down, turned off the engine, and waited. Minutes later, Kyle's car arrived. They didn't waste time. He was in her room within 30 seconds. Room 114. Jace stepped out, hoodie pulled low, phone in hand. He got it all. Kyle opening the door. Her pulling him in. The curtains closing. He got shots of both their cars, time-stamped and geotagged. But the money shot came when they exited, Melissa in Kyle's hoodie, Kyle slapping her ass as they laughed. Jace uploaded everything to the drive and texted one line to his dad. She's at the motel. Got it all. That night, back home, Melissa returned glowing. Yoga was intense, she said, stretching. Ethan looked up from his book. Bet it was. She paused, unsure. You okay? He smiled gently. Never better. And across the house, Jace clicked save on a folder titled Evidence, Phase 1 Complete. Ethan stood outside the JAG office on base, uniform crisp, face blank. The desert heat was ruthless, but he didn't sweat. Not anymore. Captain Rivera walked out, holding the signed clearance papers. It's done. You've got 7 days. Officially, it's family emergency leave. Unofficially, do what you have to do. Ethan nodded once. Appreciate it, sir. Rivera looked him in the eye. You sure you're ready for this? Ethan's response was steady. I was trained to neutralize threats. That doesn't stop at the border. A short flight later, Ethan was back in the States, this time under the radar. No airport reunion. No welcome signs. No Melissa. He didn't tell anyone except Jace. They met at a gas station just past the county line. Jace looked older than when Ethan had left, and that broke something deep. Not from time, but from the burden of silence. Dad, Jace said, eyes heavy. Ethan opened his arms and pulled him in. No words. Just the weight of what they both knew pressing between them. She doesn't know I'm here, Ethan said after a moment. Jace stepped back, nodding. She thinks you're still in Kuwait. I've been keeping it that way. They got in the truck and drove. Ethan didn't ask questions. He let Jace talk. About the burner phone. The motel. The screenshots. Melissa's soft lies and sharp betrayals. She laughs when she texts him, Jace said. Like she's proud of it. Ethan didn't react. He just stared at the road ahead. That's good. Why? Jace asked. Because people who get cocky stop hiding their footprints, Ethan said. And that's when we follow them home. They didn't head to the house. They headed to war. Ethan parked a block from his own driveway and killed the lights. Jace shifted in the passenger seat. You sure about this? Ethan nodded. I want to see it with my own eyes. I need to know every move they make. At 7:11 p.m., Melissa's SUV pulled in. A few minutes later, Kyle's car eased to the curb, bold as anything. From the shadows, Ethan watched them greet like lovers, not like two people hiding a lie. She giggled. He kissed her neck. She let him in with a smile that used to belong to someone else. Ethan's grip on the steering wheel didn't tighten, but his breath changed. Slower. Deeper. Inside the house, light shifted through windows. The living room. Then her bedroom. He didn't speak for several minutes. Neither did Jace. Finally, Ethan pulled out his phone. We start documenting every visit. Timestamps. License plates. How long he stays. Jace opened his notes app, already doing it. Ethan turned to him. You're handling this better than I expected. Jace gave a hollow smile. I already said goodbye to the version of her that mattered. Across the street, Melissa laughed loud enough to echo through the yard. Ethan didn't look at the house anymore. He looked at the future. I want him to pay, Jace whispered. Oh, he will, Ethan replied. But not before she does. The two sat in silence, watching the life that was supposed to be theirs unravel behind glass. This wasn't just about cheating anymore. It was about exposure, erasure, control, and neither of them was backing down. Monday morning hit like a precision strike. By 9 a.m., Ethan was in the office of Lauren Wells, A divorce attorney with a reputation for dismantling cheaters like it was sport. Lauren leaned back in her chair, flipping through the printed screenshots and timelines Ethan had assembled with military-level detail. "You built me a war dossier," she said, impressed. "Because this is war," Ethan replied. "And I don't lose wars." Lauren smiled thinly. "The burner phone evidence, the motel photos, and your son's testimony? That's a full deck. We can hit her with adultery, marital asset concealment, and parental alienation." Ethan nodded. "I don't want sympathy. I want precision. She's not getting the house, not getting the car. And with that kind of documented betrayal, you could push for full custody." "I plan to." Lauren tapped her pen. "What about exposure? I want her public life scorched. She made me the fool. I want her to feel that in every room she walks into." Lauren's tone shifted, serious now. "Then we do it smart. Quietly. Until it's not." Ethan stood. "You'll have full support. Funds. Documents. Anything you need." As he left, he texted Jace. "Ethan, legal's locked in. Phase 2 starts now." That night, Jace watched Melissa prep for a charity event while texting Kyle. "Can't wait to be free soon." She didn't notice Jace's phone recording from the kitchen counter. And she definitely didn't notice the storm forming under her own roof. The house was dead silent except for the soft clink of a spoon in Jace's cereal bowl. Across the table, Ethan sat sipping coffee, unreadable. Melissa had left 20 minutes earlier, another early meeting. Jace didn't ask where. He didn't need to. "Tracker's still active?" Ethan asked. Jace nodded. "Shows her off Route 15. Same hotel." Ethan pulled out a small USB drive and placed it between them. "This has everything we've collected. We're backing it up twice. Once to the cloud. Once to an offline drive in a fireproof box." Jace pushed his cereal away. He wasn't hungry anymore. "How far are we taking this?" Ethan's eyes didn't blink. "All the way." Jace exhaled. "Then I'm in." "All the way." Ethan finally let the silence break. "You shouldn't have to be." Jace's voice cracked slightly. "She made me part of this. You didn't." The two sat in a stillness heavier than words. No tears. No pity. Only purpose. They reviewed Melissa's patterns, her work calendar, social life, ATM withdrawals. Jace had tracked them on a shared spreadsheet. The level of detail was surgical. "She thinks we're dumb," Jace said, shaking his head. "She actually believes we have no idea." "That's her mistake," Ethan replied. "Overconfidence is a weakness." Later that night, while Melissa showered, Ethan and Jace installed a second security cam in the hallway light fixture, disguised as a bulb. It synced to Ethan's laptop in real time. "Now we watch," Ethan said, "and we wait for the moment she stops covering her tracks." Jace stared at the feed. "She already has." Thursday evening. Melissa came home humming to herself, heels clicking on the hardwood floor. She walked straight past Jace without noticing the way he watched her. Ethan was at the grill, flipping steaks like it was a normal day. She kissed his cheek like it still meant something. "I miss this," she said. Ethan smiled back. "So did I." Jace's stomach twisted. She really believed it. Believed her lies were invisible, untouchable. That's what made it worse. She didn't even look guilty, just satisfied. Over dinner, Melissa poured wine, laughing at her own story about a friend from yoga getting stuck in traffic. Ethan nodded along, eyes warm, voice easy. "Glad you're keeping up with your routine. Self-care is important." "Oh, you have no idea," she said with a wink. Later, Ethan brought her a refill while she relaxed in the living room. She sipped, scrolling her phone with one hand, typing with the other. From the hallway, Jace watched her screen reflect in the mirror behind her. A message app. Kyle's name at the top. His stomach burned. "Tomorrow's the weekend trip?" Ethan asked casually. "Yep, just us girls." "You deserve it," he said, walking away. Upstairs, in the garage-turned-command center, Ethan opened the synced feed from Melissa's device. It mirrored everything in real time, thanks to a silent clone app he'd installed through a USB adapter she never noticed. He watched her type. "I'll tell him I'm going to Charlottesville. Should buy us 3 days. I want you so bad it hurts." Kyle replied, I want to wreck you all weekend. He's too blind to see it. Ethan closed the laptop slowly. She just handed us the date, the place, the lie. Jace looked over his shoulder. What do we do? Ethan didn't smile. He didn't blink. We let her go. Friday afternoon, Melissa packed a weekend bag with more care than she ever packed for family vacations. Perfume, lingerie, the red lipstick Ethan always thought was just for fun. I'll be back Sunday night, she said, kissing his cheek at the door. Have fun, Ethan said, handing her the keys to the newer car. She smirked. Don't wait up. Ethan closed the door behind her and deadbolted, then turned to Jace. We follow her in 30. Jace already had the second vehicle ready, GoPros mounted, lenses clean. An hour later, they tailed her from a distance. No sudden moves. No suspicions raised. Melissa drove 2 hours west, stopping at a remote mountain lodge. Kyle was already waiting outside the cabin, champagne in one hand, keycard in the other. Ethan didn't flinch, didn't take the bait. Instead, he parked farther down the hill and launched a drone over the tree-line. Silent, undetectable. They got footage of the door opening. Melissa wrapped around Kyle's neck like she was starving. Laughter, moaning, kisses that belonged in movies, not in a marriage. Get the room number? Ethan asked. 114 again, Jace said. Same as last time. Ethan watched the drone feed, cold, calculating. That night, while they slept tangled inside, Ethan hacked the lodge's online booking portal. He reserved the room beside theirs, under a fake name, for Sunday night. We'll leave them alone for now, he said. Let them feel safe. Why? Jace asked. Ethan turned to him. Because the higher they climb, the harder they hit the ground. He had uploaded on the new footage, syncing it to the evidence folder. The betrayal was no longer personal. Now it was a case file, and it was getting heavier by the hour. Sunday evening, Ethan sat in a quiet cafe on the outskirts of Richmond, sipping black coffee while scanning the PI's email that had just hit his inbox. Subject line, Kyle's identity confirmed. The files were loaded with DMV records, financial accounts, and a sealed court order from New Jersey. Kyle wasn't even his real name. His legal ID read, Travis Nolan. 3 aliases. 2 fraud charges in the past 5 years. 1 ongoing investigation in Florida. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a career scammer. Ethan closed the laptop slowly, then looked at Jace across the table. This isn't just about us anymore. Jace leaned in. What do you mean? He's stolen money. Used false identities. Melissa might not just be a cheater. She could be an accessory. Jace's jaw clenched. You think she knows? Ethan stared out the window. Not at first. But now? She's too deep not to. That night, they prepped 2 folders. 1 digital, 1 printed. Inside, bank transfers from Melissa's shared account to a shell company in Kyle's name. Emails between them referencing clean slates and starting fresh. It wasn't love. It was a setup, and she walked straight into it. Ethan looked over everything again. If we leak this wrong, it could blow back on me. On my career. On you. So what do we do? Jace asked. Ethan looked him dead in the eye. We expose her without touching her. Let her hang herself with her own rope. The house looked normal again. Sunday dinner smells, football murmuring from the TV, the clink of silverware. But under the surface, nothing was normal. The new hallway light bulb wasn't just a bulb. It was now the second camera in the house, capturing every whispered call, every smirk, every message sent when she thought no one was watching. That night, while Melissa was in the shower, Ethan downloaded the footage, her phone calls, her voice, her bragging. He doesn't suspect anything. The second he signs that VA refinance, we pull out the rest. Clean. No mess. She wasn't just cheating. She was bleeding him dry. Ethan pressed pause and stared at her frozen face on screen. He didn't recognize her anymore. Later, in the garage, Jace reviewed audio from earlier that afternoon, Melissa on a call with her friend Dana. He thinks he's got me back. So sweet, right? Honestly, I think I'll be out by New Year's. Me and Kyle already have a condo in Florida lined up. Jace looked at his dad, eyes wide. She's planning to leave you? Ethan didn't blink. Not before I leave her with nothing. The next morning, Ethan went to the credit union, quietly removed her access, rerouted all automated payments, flagged the joint accounts for fraud alerts. By noon, Melissa's debit card bounced at a gas station. She came home irritated. "Weird bank glitch today," she muttered, brushing past them. Ethan just nodded. Probably nothing. But inside his head, the countdown had started, and every camera in the house was still rolling. Tuesday night, Melissa invited Dana over for wine and gossip. She didn't know the kitchen mic was hot, hidden behind a light fixture Jace rigged with a $40 wireless bug off Amazon. Ethan sat in the garage, headphones on, recording every word. Melissa poured wine like she didn't have a care in the world. "Girl, I swear, I feel like a genius. Ethan is totally eating out of my hand." Dana laughed. "You're bad." "No, seriously. I act all sweet. Make him dinner, do the whole I missed you act, and he's falling for it." "You're not worried about Jace?" Melissa shrugged. "He's a kid. He'll come around. They always do." Ethan paused the recording. The way she dismissed their son like collateral damage? That cut deeper than anything. He let the audio roll again. Melissa kept going. "Anyway, Carl says once the money clears, we go full ghost. No forwarding address. New numbers. Just me and him. A fresh life." Dana gasped. "You're leaving without telling them?" Melissa sipped. "Why not? He left me for war. I'm leaving him for peace." The words hit harder than they should have. Jace, listening from the hallway, didn't move for a full minute. Then he turned and walked away, eyes burning, fist clenched. That night, Ethan labeled the new folder, Confessions Audio. He didn't even need to edit it. The rawness was damning enough. At midnight, he sat on the back porch, hands clasped. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about making sure she never got the chance to do this again. Not to him. Not to Jace. Not to anyone. Monday morning hit like a cold slap. Melissa was up early, humming in the kitchen as if she hadn't planned her escape with a man hiding under a fake name. She kissed Ethan's cheek and smiled. "Breakfast on the table, babe." He sat, nodded, played the part. Across from him, Jace chewed silently, scrolling through the latest data dump from the drone, footage of Kyle wiring $10,000 to a flagged account. The digital trap was tightening. After she left, Ethan slid a folder across the table to Jace. Labeled in red ink, Phase 3. Inside was a step-by-step breakdown. Legal isolation, lock her out of all financial access. Public reputation dismantling, scheduled email drops, set to trigger on command. Law enforcement hook, final package with financial crimes evidence, set for anonymous delivery. Social collapse, send the video compilation of her motel visits and recorded calls to her job, family, and friends. "She's got 5 days, Ethan said. Jace looked up. "Until what?" "Until we make her the story she thought she'd never be." That afternoon, Ethan paid a visit to his divorce attorney, Lauren. "She's trying to vanish with someone using 3 identities," Ethan told her. Lauren skimmed the bank statements, motel logs, and audio files. Her brows lifted. "You didn't just catch her cheating. You caught her in a conspiracy." Ethan didn't smile. "She deserves every second of what's coming." Lauren leaned in. "We can schedule court for next month, but I can file the separation and asset freeze by Friday." Quietly. "Do it." Back at home, Ethan reviewed the latest footage from Melissa's yoga friend hangouts. Same motel, same man, same lies. By the time she walked through the door that night, he had all he needed. And she still thought he was blind. Friday marked their 20th wedding anniversary. Melissa made a show of it, dressed in white, posted an old wedding photo online with a caption dripping in fake affection. 20 years of love, loyalty, and laughter. Grateful every day, Jace nearly threw his phone across the room. Ethan said nothing. He just forwarded the post to Lauren with the message. "Time it now." At 6 p.m., Melissa walked through the door with takeout and a cheap bottle of wine. "Happy anniversary, honey," she said, kissing Ethan on the cheek. He smiled. "Didn't expect you to remember." "Oh, stop it," she giggled. "Of course I did." Dinner was quiet. Too quiet. Midway through the meal, Melissa's phone buzzed. She checked it, froze. Email subject, Melissa Nolan. For internal review, she clicked. The email was from her own company's HR department. Inside, screenshots of her text with Kyle. Expense reports showing hotel bookings billed as client meetings. Audio clips. Ethan didn't flinch. Something wrong. She looked pale. It's spam, I think. He tilted his head. Weird. I got one too. He pulled out his phone and played the audio aloud. Her voice, laughing with Dana. He left me for war. I'm leaving him for peace. Melissa's wine glass shook slightly in her hand. Jace entered, holding a manila envelope. He dropped it beside her plate. From Dad's lawyer. Happy anniversary. Melissa opened it, slowly. Inside, divorce papers. Full custody request. Evidence files. Her hands trembled as she flipped through them. You think this is funny? She whispered. Ethan leaned forward. No, Melissa. I think you thought it was. She stood, rattled. This is low. You haven't seen low, Ethan cut in. But you will. And then he calmly went back to his meal. Melissa didn't sleep that night. She paced the bedroom while Ethan sat downstairs in the glow of the laptop screen. Files uploaded. Videos queued. The social demolition had begun. By 9 a.m. the next day, the first wave hit. Her best friend blocked her. Her sister texted, "What the hell did you do?" Her boss requested an emergency meeting. Jace and Ethan watched it unfold from the garage feed. No words spoken. Just updates rolling in like battle stats. Melissa tried calling Kyle, no answer. Tried texting, nothing delivered. By noon, her bank app froze. Her savings drained. Auto payments declined. Then came the knock. 2 men in plain clothes, military police, flashing IDs. Ethan opened the door and nodded. She's inside. Melissa stepped into the foyer, makeup smeared, holding her phone like a lifeline. Ma'am, we need to speak with you about fraudulent activity connected to a known federal target. You may want to contact legal counsel. Her voice cracked. What? Wait, what are you talking about? Ethan stood behind the officers, arms crossed. Kyle isn't who you think he is. But I guess you know that now. Her knees wobbled. The officers asked her to sit down for questioning. She obeyed, stunned. When they left, with her in tow for a voluntary statement, Jace looked at Ethan. Is this it? Ethan shook his head. It's just starting. That afternoon, Ethan pressed send on the final file package, delivered anonymously to a military fraud watchdog group. By evening, Melissa's name was trending locally online. Screenshots. Clips. Headlines like, Army wife's affair exposes financial scam. FBI investigating alleged accomplice. And still, Ethan hadn't raised his voice once. He didn't need to. The truth had done the screaming for him. Melissa stood in front of the mirror the next morning, her face pale, eyes swollen from a sleepless night. The bedroom still smelled like lavender, but it didn't soothe her like it used to. Not anymore. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification. Another door slamming shut. You're done here. Don't come to the office. We forwarded the files to legal. She dropped the phone onto the bed and stared blankly at her reflection. Downstairs, Ethan brewed coffee like nothing had changed. He sipped slowly, watched the sunlight crawl across the tile floor. The same floor he'd helped lay 12 years ago, back when the home was built on real trust. Jace entered quietly, grabbing his mug. She's spiraling. Ethan nodded. Let her. Melissa came down 20 minutes later, clothes wrinkled, hair pinned up carelessly. We need to talk. Ethan looked up but didn't speak. I don't know what you think you're doing, she began, voice shaky. But I can fix this. You can't just ruin everything. I didn't ruin anything, Ethan said calmly. You did. I just made sure people saw it. I made mistakes, okay? But this is character assassination. Ethan stood slowly. You assassinated your own character the moment you chose him. You're trying to destroy me. No, he said, stepping closer. I'm just making sure you never again get to destroy someone else. She blinked, lips parting, searching for the version of him she once knew. But that man was gone. Ethan turned to Jace. Finish uploading the rest. Send it to HR, family group, and her alumni board. Jace nodded, expression solid. Melissa's breath caught in her throat. You don't want to do this, she whispered. Ethan didn't look back. You already did. By noon, Melissa had called Kyle, Travis, 12 times. All went straight to voicemail. She paced the living room like a caged animal, the weight of her world collapsing in slow motion. Ethan sat in the armchair, silent, watching the clock. Jace was upstairs, finalizing the next wave of drops, metadata reports, call logs, all scrubbed clean and traceable. I don't understand, Melissa muttered. He's not answering. He always answers. Maybe he's busy, Ethan said without a trace of emotion. He wouldn't ghost me, she snapped. Not after everything we. She stopped herself, realizing who she was talking to. Ethan stood, walked to the window. I wonder what happens to men like him when the feds get involved. Melissa paled. You didn't. I didn't need to, he said flatly. They've been looking for him for years. All I did was point them in the right direction. She stumbled back a step, as if the air had left the room. You set him up? Ethan turned to face her, eyes sharp. No, I just stopped shielding you both. She collapsed into the couch, staring into nothing. Jace came downstairs, holding a laptop. He's not just ghosting, Dad. He's running. What do you mean? He booked a flight to Brazil. One way, different name. Fake ID flagged in 2 systems. Melissa's hands went cold. No, he wouldn't leave me. Jace scoffed. He already has. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. The man you gave up your family for? He saw the flames and jumped. Left you to burn. The sound of her own breathing was the only answer she had left. And from the kitchen, the printer rolled out a final stack of paperwork, court hearing date set. Witness list ready. Evidence cataloged. It was almost time. Melissa didn't leave the house that weekend. She moved through rooms like a shadow, calling no one, answering nothing. Her phone buzzed until she turned it off completely. There were no more lies to manage. No more masks to wear. She was already exposed. Jace watched her from the staircase, arms folded. She's in free fall. Ethan didn't respond. He was focused on the folder in front of him, final legal prep. The signatures were complete. All documents were in place for the Monday morning court drop. He'd never been so precise in his life, and he was a soldier. Dad, Jace said, lowering his voice. What if she tries something? She won't. But what if she does? Ethan finally looked at him. She's already done everything. And we've already won. That night, the 3 of them sat under one roof, for what would be the final time. The silence stretched across the dinner table like barbed wire. Melissa pushed her food around on the plate, not eating. Jace stared at his fork. Ethan cut his steak slowly, chewing with calm precision. Then Ethan placed his knife down. I'll be out early tomorrow, he said. Lawyer wants to get ahead of filings. Melissa looked up. You're going through with it? Too late not to. I was going to tell you, she whispered. I didn't mean, you meant everything, Ethan said. You just thought I'd never see it. She opened her mouth, then closed it. He stood and took his plate to the sink, rinsing it clean. Jace watched her eyes. They didn't carry tears, just regret and a little bit of fear. Ethan turned to both of them. Tomorrow ends this. And then he walked away, calm as ever, because the collapse wasn't coming. It had already started. The Monday's sun rose quietly over Virginia, but the air felt sharp, like something had shifted. Ethan woke early, tied his boots with soldier's precision, shaved clean, dressed in tailored slacks and a charcoal gray dress shirt, not because he wanted to impress, but because he wanted to show up as the man she underestimated. Jay stood by the truck, already dressed. You ready? Ethan adjusted his watch. Been ready. They drove in silence. The kind of silence that carried weight, not distance. The courthouse was 15 minutes away, but the day had been years in the making. Melissa stayed behind. She didn't ask to come. She knew why. In court, Ethan handed the clerk 3 manila folders, each labeled and stamped. Inside, audio files, bank records, transcripts, and photographs, evidence she couldn't run from. The clerk looked up. This is enough to fast-track a full hearing. That's the idea, Ethan said. Outside, Lauren, Their attorney met them on the steps. She's going to try to stall, possibly counterfile. But don't worry, the judge reviewing this? She's strict, and she's seen women like Melissa before. Good, Ethan said. I'm not just doing this for me. Jace nodded. We're making sure she doesn't walk out and ruin the next family, too. Back at home, Melissa sat on the couch with her phone in her lap. She stared at a blank screen. No calls. No messages. Kyle hadn't returned. Her inbox was flooded with rejections, fired, blocked, excommunicated. She looked around the house she was about to lose. The family she shattered. And for the first time since it all began, her hands began to tremble. But it was too late, and she knew it. 2 days later, Ethan received an unexpected alert from his bank. A flagged offshore transaction attempt, $80,000, had been intercepted from an account formerly tied to his name. He immediately called Lauren. She's trying to cash out, she said. No, Ethan replied. He is. Carl set it up months ago. She was just the funnel. Lauren went quiet. You need to see something. 20 minutes later, Ethan and Jace were in her office. She slid a printed financial map across the table, lines, names, account numbers, and 3 shell companies. At the center, Melissa Nolan, connected through false invoices and fake consulting services. She laundered the money, Lauren said. She either didn't know or didn't care. Either way, the law won't separate them. Jace leaned forward. How bad is it? For her? Very. This is criminal, not just civil. She's listed as a silent co-owner on one of the LLCs tied to Kyle's stolen funds. Ethan folded his hands, which means she's not walking out with anything. Lauren nodded. She could be facing indictment. Minimum, fines. Maximum, prison time. The room went still. Ethan broke the silence. We file all of this today? Lauren gave a thin smile. Filed it an hour ago. And we've already tipped off the task force handling Kyle's fraud ring. Ethan leaned back in his chair. She was trying to burn everything down. And now, Jace added, she's standing in the fire. The investigation deepened faster than Ethan expected. 2 federal agents showed up at his house midweek. They were polite, respectful, but serious. We believe your wife was used as an entry point for wider fraud activity, the lead agent said. But she may not have been entirely unaware. Ethan nodded. She wasn't. They asked for access to all the documents he'd collected, the ones Melissa hadn't seen yet. Ethan opened his laptop and handed them everything. Emails, voice notes, even an old voicemail where Melissa talked about setting up the accounts Kyle mentioned. Jace watched from the hallway, listening. After the agents left, Ethan sat at the kitchen table, hands steepled. Melissa was upstairs, hiding behind closed doors. Jace came in. So what now? Ethan stared at the ceiling. Now we let the system do its job. But we finish ours. That night, Melissa finally came downstairs. Hair messy, face pale. I know what's happening, she said. Ethan didn't stand. Good. You think this makes you the better person? No, just the one who survived. She looked at Jace, eyes red, full of something close to shame. I never meant for this to happen to you, she said. Jace's voice was flat. You just didn't care if it did. Melissa tried to sit, but Ethan raised a hand. Don't. You don't get to rewrite this. You did this. Not to just me, but to him. To all of us. She broke. For the first time, Melissa sobbed. Not crocodile tears. Not manipulation. Real, broken sobs. But it was too late. Jace stood and left the room. Ethan remained seated. You'll feel better crying, he said. Good. Because tomorrow, they'll start asking real questions. The news broke on a Thursday. Local stations picked up the headline first. Army wife implicated in multi-state fraud network linked to known con artist. Then came the national wires. Inside the house, silence stretched thin. Melissa hadn't spoken in hours. She stayed in her room, door shut, phone off, pacing behind the walls like a prisoner without a sentence. Ethan stood in the garage, reviewing files. Not just hers. His own. Because as her name was dragged into the spotlight, so was his. Jace entered quietly. They just mentioned your name on Channel 5. Ethan looked up. How bad? They're saying you're being reviewed internally. You know, because of the shared accounts. Ethan nodded once. No emotion. Expected. He prepared for this. Long before the storm hit, he'd separated himself on paper, pulled all permissions, filed every warning, documented every conflict. He handed Jace a folder. Give this to Lauren. It clears me of exposure on all joint asset transfers. You sure they'll believe you? They won't need to believe. The numbers tell the truth. But still, it stung. Years of service. Clean record. One dishonorable partner could taint it all. Later that night, Ethan got the call. His CO, stern, precise. We're placing you on temporary administrative hold, Sergeant Nolan. Not disciplinary. But we need to clear the optics. I understand, sir, Ethan said quietly. Don't worry. I've seen what you've submitted. I know who you are. That meant more than Ethan expected. He ended the call and stared at the ceiling for a long minute. He wasn't just fighting for revenge now. He was fighting for everything he had built, with blood, bone, and loyalty. And Melissa's choices had put it all at risk. That night, after the call, Ethan stepped out onto the back porch. The air was heavy, humid, storm-ready. Jace followed him out, sitting beside him on the wooden steps. You okay? Jace asked. No, Ethan said honestly. But I will be. Silence again. The kind that meant something. Ethan finally turned. It's time we expand this. Bring in someone who knows how to finish it right. Jace tilted his head. Who? Paul Chambers. FBI Cyber Division. We served together in Kandahar. An hour later, Ethan made the call. Paul answered immediately. Nolan, haven't heard your voice in a decade. I've got a situation. Not just personal. Something bigger. Financial ring. Multiple states. I've got the paper trail. Paul's voice sharpened. You saying it's federal? I'm saying it's big enough for you to care. By the next morning, Paul had rerouted his team. Within 48 hours, 2 more names were confirmed in the fraud loop. 2 government contractors. One tied directly to Melissa's yoga retreat conference bookings. This wasn't just infidelity. It was organized deception. Paul arrived by Friday, met Ethan in a diner parking lot outside town. Black SUV. Leather folder. You weren't kidding, Paul said. This is big. Ethan opened the trunk and handed him 3 hard drives. She was the front. He was the mover. But this thing has more layers. Paul flipped through the drive files. You've got enough here to spark a federal task force. I don't want sparks, Ethan said. I want fire. Paul grinned. Then let's light it. The real twist didn't come from Melissa or Kyle. It came from Dana, her best friend, the one who laughed over wine, gossiped in kitchens, co-signed lies. But when Dana got a call from Paul Chambers, formal, serious, we know what you know tone, everything changed. She folded in under 30 minutes. Ethan sat across from her at Lauren's office conference table. Dana looked smaller than he remembered, nervous, sweat along her temple. I didn't know it was this serious, she said. I thought it was just cheating. You knew about the shell companies. I didn't know what they were for, but you helped her write invoices. Padded numbers. You booked hotels under fake names. Dana swallowed. Melissa told me it was temporary. Just a way to get ahead. She made it sound harmless. Was it harmless when Kyle started laundering stolen funds through your business PayPal? Dana froze. He did what? Paul slid a photo across the table. You're tied to the funds now. Unless you flip. Dana stared at the evidence. Then back at Ethan. If I give you everything, can I walk? That's not up to me, Ethan said. But if you stay quiet, you'll be walking in cuffs. Dana broke. Told them everything. Dates. Passwords. Back-channel emails. Even a recorded FaceTime Melissa had once bragged about, saying, by the time Ethan finds out, we'll be gone. He'll be left with nothing but a name badge and a mortgage. That footage became Exhibit A. By sunset, Dana had delivered enough to burn every safety net Melissa thought she had left. The best friend turned into the final nail. And Ethan? He was finally ready for the reveal. The invitations went out weeks before. A local military family's charity event, semi-formal, high-profile, media covered. Melissa had volunteered to help organize it months ago, back when her life was intact. She had no idea the very stage she helped build would be the one she'd be destroyed on. Ethan stood in front of his bathroom mirror, fixing his tie with soldier's precision. Jace waited in the hallway, dressed in black, camera bag slung over his shoulder. "You sure about this?" Jace asked. Ethan didn't look away from the mirror. Every step until now was for this. At the venue, a gleaming hall with chandeliers and a military color guard, Melissa arrived early, smiling like she hadn't been exposed as a fraud and adulterer just days ago. She still believed her old life had weight. She wore a blood-red dress, fitted and sharp, trying to reclaim the image of a woman in control. By 7 p.m., the hall buzzed with officers, spouses, commanders, and donors. The media crew set up tripods. The local mayor arrived. Even a few high-ranking brass stood near the back with folded arms and quiet observation. Ethan walked in alone. He turned heads. Clean-cut. Composed. Respected. Melissa's smile faltered for half a second when she saw him. "You came," she said. "I wouldn't miss it," he replied coolly. The microphone was passed around through the night. Light speeches, stories, fundraisers. Then came the final speaker slot, the one Melissa was scheduled to close with. But the host took the mic and said, "We've had a slight change. Sergeant Ethan Nolan has asked to say a few words." Melissa blinked. "What?" Ethan stepped onto the stage. Calm, hands in his pockets. "This won't take long," he said into the mic, "but it will be important." Then he nodded at Jace. The lights dimmed. The screen behind him lit up. The first image was soft. Melissa and Kyle, arms locked, laughing. Then came a date, a location, a time, then audio. "Once he signs the refinance, we take what's left and disappear." The room stilled. Silverware stopped. Murmurs rose. Melissa's smile drained completely. Her wine glass tipped slightly in her hand. "Everything you're hearing," Ethan said, voice steady, "is real. Every photo, every message, every transfer." The next clip showed Kyle handing her an envelope. Inside, fake banking forms. "They'll never trace it. He's too dumb to notice." Gasps echoed through the hall. Melissa stood. "This is a personal attack. This is harassment." But then came the footage Dana had provided. Melissa in her kitchen, saying, "By the time Ethan finds out, we'll be gone. He'll be left with a name badge and a mortgage." And then, silence. All eyes turned. Melissa's mouth opened, closed. No words. Ethan stepped forward again. "This isn't about infidelity. This is about betrayal. Financial, emotional, criminal. And it ends here." He nodded once more. Paul Chambers stepped from the back, flashed his badge. "Melissa Nolan," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "You need to come with us for questioning in an ongoing federal investigation." Phones lit up. Cameras clicked. Melissa looked at Ethan with horror in her eyes. "You set me up." He met her gaze. Calm. Empty. "You set yourself up. I just made sure the lights were on when it happened." Two agents took her gently by the arms. She didn't resist. And the crowd? They didn't clap. They watched. Because no one applauds a collapse. An hour later, the hall had cleared. The chatter hadn't. People whispered. Phones buzzed. Clips went online. Melissa's name trended within the hour. But Ethan? He sat alone in the back row, watching the screen flicker as Jace packed up the tech gear. "That was a kill shot," Jace said. "Clean." Ethan leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. She thought she could lie forever. Until she walked into her own eulogy. Across the room, Paul approached with a folder. "Just got word. Kyle was picked up in Miami. Fake passport. Ticket to Brazil. He flipped on her already." "Of course he did," Ethan muttered. "He ran the moment the spotlight hit." Paul opened the folder. "Here's the part you didn't know. Kyle wasn't working alone. Melissa wasn't just involved. She was feeding info from inside military spouse groups, financials, charity funds. She was deep in it." Ethan stared at the paper. "So this was never just personal?" "Nope," Paul said. "It was a pipeline." A pause. Then Ethan smiled, cold, but satisfied. "Then I'm glad we broke it. Publicly." Jace walked over. Think she'll talk? She'll scream, Ethan said. But now, no one's listening. The lights in the hall dimmed. The sound guy unplugged the last mic chairs stacked. Music off. But one thing still echoed. He'll be left with a name badge and a mortgage. Now she was the one left with nothing. And Ethan? He walked out of the building not as a victim, but as a man who planned a war and won without firing a single shot. The video went viral overnight. Clipped, cropped, shared, streamed. Melissa's downfall became digital currency. Her voice, once smug behind closed doors, was now broadcasted into thousands of living rooms, military forums, and media pages across the country. By the time Ethan finds out, we'll be gone. He left me for war. I'm leaving him for peace. Ethan didn't post it. He didn't need to. Someone else had screen recorded it during the gala. Now it was everywhere. By morning, he was sitting in the kitchen with a fresh cup of coffee, news channels echoing faintly in the background. Jace walked in, sleep still in his eyes. You've seen it. Ethan nodded toward the TV. They're running a segment every 30 minutes. I mean the comments. He slid his phone across the table. Posts were flooded. This guy is a legend. She really thought she could outsmart a soldier? Justice served cold. Protect Jace at all costs. Ethan scrolled slowly. He didn't smile. But his chest rose differently now. Not pride. Not ego. Validation. Jace sat down beside him. You okay? Ethan looked at his son. Really looked at him. You kept me steady. You didn't fall. I almost did, Ethan admitted. But watching her lose what she took for granted, that saved me. Jace leaned back. So what happens now? Before Ethan could answer, the doorbell rang. A courier stood on the porch, envelope in hand. Melissa's legal response. Inside, her official plea for leniency, citing emotional instability, manipulation by Kyle, and post-traumatic stress. Ethan handed the papers to Lauren later that day. She wants mercy now? Lauren shrugged. Her attorney's betting on sympathy. Ethan's voice didn't rise. She didn't have any for us. 1 week later, Ethan walked into the courthouse for the preliminary hearing. Press stood behind barriers. Local anchors whispered into mics. But inside the courtroom, it was quiet. Cold. Controlled. Melissa sat at the defendant's table. Hair pulled back tight. No makeup. No red dress. Just a neutral blouse and a legal team 3 deep beside her. She didn't look up when Ethan entered. Jace sat in the front row. Lauren by his side. Paul in the back, silent but present. The judge entered. Gavel hit. Docket number 2025-137. State versus Melissa Nolan. A federal prosecutor stood. Your Honor, we are pursuing charges for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, laundering of military base relief funds, and attempted identity obfuscation through shell corporations. Melissa's lawyer stood immediately. Your Honor, my client was manipulated, emotionally compromised, and unaware of the deeper criminal activity involved. The judge cut in. She filed 3 fraudulent invoices herself. That's not unaware. That's documented. Silence fell. Ethan's gaze stayed steady on Melissa. She still wouldn't look at him. Then, without warning, the judge said, Sergeant Nolan, would you like to address the court? Ethan stood, buttoned his jacket, walked forward. I served this country with discipline and honor, he said. And while I fought enemies abroad, I was being deceived in my own home. His voice didn't waver. She wasn't just cheating. She was helping someone exploit the trust of military families, people who've lost more than I ever have. That makes this bigger than me. The courtroom stayed still. She made choices. So now, she faces the consequences. The judge nodded. Thank you, Sergeant. As Ethan returned to his seat, Melissa finally looked up. But he didn't look back. She was no longer worth seeing. 3 days later, Melissa received the next blow. In the lobby of her temporary housing facility, set up for defendants under supervision, a woman in a sharp suit approached with calm precision. Melissa Nolan? Yes. You're being served. Melissa took the envelope, hands already shaking. Inside, Ethan's civil suit. Separate from the federal case, it targeted what remained of her financial influence. Her half of retirement savings, filed under fraud. Life insurance transfers she tried to push through before her exposure. Claims she made on joint tax returns for Kyle's expenses. Jace stood beside Ethan when the final draft had been submitted. "You sure you want to take the rest?" Jace had asked. Ethan answered without hesitation. "She didn't leave me half destroyed. She left me whole. On purpose, to suffer. Now she gets to live with what she started." Melissa collapsed into the bench outside the facility entrance, reading line after line. A few people walked past her. Some whispered. She was no longer anonymous. She was no longer envied. She was the cautionary tale. And across town, Ethan stood on the porch of a newly rented apartment, sipping his coffee in quiet peace. Jace pulled up beside him. "That's it, huh?" Ethan nodded. "That's justice. Not revenge." "No," Ethan said. "Revenge ends when you burn them. Justice ends when you stop carrying their fire." Jace smiled faintly. And for the first time in months, Ethan exhaled. Melissa sat across from her court-appointed advisor, biting the inside of her cheek as he read through the most recent update. "Well," he said, voice flat, "your accounts are officially frozen. All 4. She blinked. "All. Even the one under your maiden name. The federal order went through this morning." Melissa tried to laugh. It came out broken. "So I have nothing?" He didn't sugarcoat it. "Not legally. No access to liquid assets. No transfers. No movement. You're under financial freeze until the investigation closes. That could take months. Or years." Her smile cracked then. The fake calm she'd worn like armor finally slipped. "And Ethan did all this?" she asked. "No," he replied. "You did." He just pointed. That evening, Ethan and Jace sat at a quiet diner, one they hadn't visited since before the chaos. The waitress remembered them. "Been a while," she said with a warm smile. "Yeah," Jace said. "Feels like years." Over burgers and black coffee, they reviewed the final court package. A few more weeks and the divorce would be finalized. Custody full. Reputation restored. "She's scrambling," Jace said between bites. Ethan sipped his coffee. "She thought money made her untouchable. Now she doesn't even have enough to pay for parking." He didn't say it with pride. He said it with closure. Across town, Melissa sat in her bare apartment. No noise. No calls. Just the soft buzz of the fridge and the echo of everything she'd lost. And when she checked her bank app again, still zeros. News of Kyle's arrest came 2 days later. Ethan opened the email from Paul's subject line. "He's done running." Kyle had been found in Miami, hiding under yet another identity, living in a condo Melissa had partially financed. The U.S. Marshals had picked him up without incident. No drama. No fight. But the twist came when Paul called Ethan personally. "He's talking," Paul said. "And he's throwing her under the bus." Ethan leaned against the wall in his garage, phone pressed to his ear. "Didn't take much, huh?" "Didn't need to." Once we showed him her signed invoices and linked transfers, he realized she wasn't a co-conspirator. She was a liability. Kyle's confession implicated Melissa in every fraudulent act she once dismissed as just helping out. Now, it was enough to take the deal off the table. That night, Lauren called. "She's being formally indicted on 3 federal counts next week." Ethan didn't flinch. "And Kyle? He'll serve time. But with the plea, he might shave off a few years. Melissa won't. She's the asset they want to make an example of. Publicly." Jace walked in just as Ethan hung up. "She's going down, isn't she?" "Hard," Ethan said. "And alone." Later that night, as Ethan stood at the sink rinsing a glass, a memory hit him. Melissa laughing in the backyard, glass of wine in hand, calling his name like nothing could touch them. He blinked it away. It was someone else now, a stranger in his memories. He set the glass down and walked away. By Monday morning, the story had evolved from local gossip to a full-scale national scandal. Military wife turned criminal. Melissa Nolan indicted in federal fraud web. Army hero's revenge uncovers million-dollar crime ring. Exclusive. Betrayed husband took down international scam with silence, strategy, and a mic. Jace scrolled through the articles in Ethan's truck as they waited at a red light. They're calling you a folk hero, Jace said, half laughing. Ethan shook his head. I'm not a hero. Just a man who refused to let someone rewrite his story. They pulled into the courthouse for one last meeting with Lauren. Inside, she had a folder waiting. Thought you'd want to see this. Inside were printed screenshots. A message thread. Melissa's attorney had tried to negotiate, offering statements, letters of apology, emotional hardship claims. Ethan closed the folder. They're still playing chess. Lauren nodded. But the game's already over. As they left the building, reporters stood outside. One stepped forward. Sergeant Nolan, any comment now that Melissa's been formally charged? Ethan paused, looked directly at the camera. Yeah, he said. Truth always comes out. Some people just don't believe it until it shows up with handcuffs. He walked past without waiting for the follow-up. That evening, as Jace played music in the background, Ethan sat on the porch. Not in mourning, not in reflection, just present. And that was enough for now. Jace had been quiet for days, processing the fallout, the public reaction, and everything they'd been through. But on a Thursday morning, without warning, he hit upload. It was a 3-minute video. Just him. Straight to camera. My name's Jace Nolan. I'm 18. And a year ago, I found out my mom was cheating on my dad while he was deployed for this country. I didn't scream. I didn't confront her. I did what my dad taught me: observe. Record. Move with purpose. He talked about the hidden phones, the motel stakeouts, the lies. Not for pity, but for truth. A lot of people are calling my dad a hero, but he didn't burn her life down for revenge. He let her torture herself. And me? I stood by him because I saw what loyalty looks like and what betrayal costs. Within hours, the video exploded. 50K views. Then 200K. Then news outlets reposted it. Soldiers commented. Teens commented. Even therapists stitched it with reactions. This is how you raise a son. That boy's strength came from somewhere solid. Jace Nolan just taught America what accountability looks like. Ethan found out from Paul, who sent him a link with a simple, "Your boy's a storm." That night, Ethan walked into Jace's room. Saw the video. Jace looked up. Too much. Ethan smiled, subtle, proud. No, it was perfect. Jace nodded once. I just wanted people to know we didn't fold. Ethan stepped forward and pulled him into a firm hug. No, we didn't. The sun bled through the living room windows. It was warm, gentle. Ethan sat alone at the dining table with a cup of black coffee and a small box in front of him. Inside it, his wedding band. The last physical reminder of a life that didn't exist anymore. He turned it in his fingers, once gold, now dulled. The engraved date inside meant nothing now. He didn't cry. He didn't hesitate. He closed the box, stood, and walked it to the backyard. With the earth soft from rain, he knelt down near the tree he'd planted after Jace was born, dug a small hole, placed the ring inside, buried it, not out of hate, but because he no longer needed to carry it. Jace watched from the kitchen door, saying nothing. Ethan came back inside, washed his hands, poured a fresh cup of coffee, and sat again. Lauren had texted minutes earlier. Divorce finalized. Full custody awarded. Property rights cleared. You're free. The word echoed in his head. Free. And yet, he didn't feel celebratory. Just clear. That afternoon, he went for a walk with Jace. No phones. No distractions. They didn't talk about Melissa. They talked about college. About rebuilding the garage. About taking a road trip somewhere quiet. Not to escape, but to begin again. 1 week later, Ethan stepped into a clean office. Walls painted soft gray. Books lining the back shelves. You've been through a lot, she said. Ethan nodded. That's an understatement. For the next hour, he talked. About the betrayal. The long game. The silence. The anger he buried so deep it almost felt like nothing. There were nights I wanted to scream, he admitted. But I had a son watching me. And I couldn't lose control. Dr. Lane nodded. So you gave him stability. But what did you give yourself? Ethan paused. Nothing. Just the mission. And now that the mission's over? He looked away. Then back. Now I have to learn how to live without the enemy. That line stayed with him all day. Later, at home, he cleared out the garage. Old photos, wedding albums, gifts. He boxed it all, sealed it, and labeled it simply, "Done." Jace walked in halfway through. "You want help?" Ethan shook his head. "No, but I want company." They finished in silence. Then Ethan opened the fridge, grabbed 2 root beers, and handed one to Jace. "To what?" Jace asked. Ethan looked around the clean garage. "To what's next?" They clinked bottles, and it finally felt real. 2 months later, Ethan stood in front of a podium at a small but packed hall. Behind him was a banner, the Nolan Foundation for Military Family Restoration. It wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about helping others rise after it. He spoke softly but clearly. "When I came home from deployment, I expected to be welcomed by love. Instead, I came back to lies. That almost broke me. But I found clarity in truth. And now I want to help others who've been where I've been." The crowd clapped, but he wasn't there for applause. He was there for impact. They awarded the first scholarship that night to a young woman whose father took his life after a bitter divorce fueled by fraud and betrayal. She was going to study law. As she stepped up, eyes full of fire, Ethan met hers and nodded. This was purpose. This was why he survived. In the back row, Jace filmed the whole thing. And for the first time since it all began, Ethan wasn't reacting to pain anymore. He was creating hope. Ethan hadn't been back to the courthouse since the final hearing. But today wasn't about court. It was about closure. He stood outside the glass doors, holding a sealed envelope in his hand, a letter addressed to Melissa. Inside, no threats, no anger, just one page. "You lost more than a marriage. You lost the chance to be remembered well. I don't hate you. I'm just done carrying the version of you that doesn't exist anymore. This isn't revenge. It's release." He left it with the court clerk. No signature required. No confrontation needed. As he walked back to his truck, Jay sat waiting in the passenger seat, headphones in, phone buzzing with another viral comment thread. His video had now crossed 2 million views. "You didn't go in to see her?" Jace asked. "No point," Ethan replied, buckling his seatbelt. "She's not the same person I thought I married. And I'm not the man who needs answers anymore. Think she'll read it. She'll read it 100 times. Because it's the last thing she'll ever get from me." They drove off in silence, the courthouse fading behind them like a bad dream finally released. That night, under a quiet sky, Ethan sat by the fire pit in the backyard. Jace joined him, tossing a log on the flames. The past still lingered in ashes. But the fire? It was finally theirs to control. The courtroom was quieter than before. No press this time, just process. Melissa stood beside her attorney, thinner now, almost unfamiliar. Her hands were clenched together, lips pursed. The judge read each charge like a slow drumbeat. Count 1, wire fraud, guilty. Count 2, conspiracy to defraud military funds, guilty. Count 3, identity falsification through third-party LLC, guilty. Melissa didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just stood, accepting the reality she had once thought she was too clever to face. The sentence? 7 years. 2 suspended for cooperation. 5 to serve. No parole for the first 3. She would leave in cuffs. And when the judge asked if she had anything to say, she whispered, "No," from the back row. Paul watched. Quiet. Unblinking. Outside, he met Ethan by the steps. "It's done," he said. Ethan nodded. "Then let it be done." He didn't stay for the escort. Didn't need to see her walked out. She had already walked out of his life long ago. And now the door behind her was finally locked. In her cold, fluorescent-lit cell, Melissa lay on the bottom bunk, holding a single piece of paper that had worn soft at the folds. Ethan's letter. She'd read it every night. Not for forgiveness. She knew she didn't deserve that. But for the weight of truth in his words. "I don't hate you. I'm just done carrying you." She mouthed the line in the dark, tears finally drying. Because he was right. He didn't destroy her. He just let her destroy herself. And now, for the first time since this all began, Melissa felt what it meant to be truly alone. No exit plan. No partner in crime. No son returning her calls. Just silence. And the memory of the man who loved her better than she ever loved herself. 6 months later, the house on Hawthorne Drive was gone, sold off as part of the settlement. Ethan and Jace now lived in a smaller home off Ridge Creek. Nothing fancy, just clean walls, solid floors, and peace. It wasn't about square footage anymore. It was about freedom. Ethan stood on the back deck with a coffee in one hand and blueprints in the other. His own design for a custom garage rebuild. Tools, auto lift, a soundproof room for Jace's podcast gear. It was more than a project. It was rebuilding on his terms. Inside, Jace was finishing a live Q&A on his channel, now sitting at over 300K subscribers. The comments section exploded daily with support. Your story changed my mindset, bro. Tell your dad he's a legend. How's he doing now? Jace ended the stream with a smile. We're good. Better than ever. We don't hate what we went through. We're just done carrying it. He walked out to join Ethan on the deck. Podcast offer came in, Jace said. Spotify wants to feature our story as a mini-series. Ethan raised a brow. That's big. Yeah, but I told them it's not about the scandal. It's about how we healed. Ethan nodded. Then it's the right story to tell. They sat in the sun for a long moment. No rush. No wait. Just wind, warmth, and the kind of quiet that didn't hurt anymore. You think about her? Jace asked suddenly. Sometimes, Ethan said truthfully. But not like before. No more fire? No more fire. Just lessons. Just growth. Just what came next. The last word. Fall arrived with gold leaves and soft skies. The Nolan Foundation had now funded scholarships for 12 military kids whose lives had been fractured by betrayal, death, or abandonment. Ethan stood at the edge of a school auditorium stage, watching one of the recipients, Maria Alvarez, age 17, give a speech that made the entire crowd teary-eyed. She ended it by saying, "Sometimes the people who fall the hardest become the ones who build the strongest bridges for others." After the ceremony, Jace pulled Ethan aside. Hey, do you regret anything? Ethan paused, thought hard, then answered quietly, I regret who she became, not what I became after. That night, he sat at his desk, writing his first article for a veteran-led mental health blog. Title, Healing Isn't Loud, It's Quiet Discipline. In it, he shared the truth. I didn't destroy her. I just stopped protecting her from her own reflection. And that's the lesson. Sometimes, revenge isn't about fire or fury. It's about stepping back and letting the truth finish the job. Because the greatest power you'll ever hold is not reacting. It's reclaiming your peace when someone tries to steal your soul. Now, one last thing. Let me ask you, what would you have done in Ethan's place? Would you have stayed quiet, burned it all down, or walked away with power? Tell us in the comments. I want to hear your take. And hey, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city/country below. Let's see how far Ethan and Jace's story reached. If this hit your heart, helped you heal, or just gave you chills, tap like, subscribe, and turn on that so you never miss another thrilling, revenge-fueled story with heart. We've got more coming. Until next time, take care of your truth, take care of your peace, and never let someone else rewrite your story. See you in the next epic revenge tale. End.